Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video today, I want to talk to you about net carbs. Have you ever heard of net carbs, or have you ever seen them like on a food label? You see carbohydrates 20 grams, net carbs 3 grams, something like that. And I was asked this question by a student who just a couple of days ago, by the way, a student who was asking some questions that she was asked by, or perhaps was questioned by a client of hers. And so it's a great topic, because anytime I'm asked anything about nutrition, it affords me the opportunity to pull people out of, how do I say this nicely, ignorance, right, into what's actually important and true about nutrition. There's no magic pills. There's nothing magic in the nutritional world. Although if you look at social media and watch some bizarre videos, apparently there's magic out there. I've never seen it. So stick with me here so I can help dispel some of this. Now, I don't think there's anything particularly difficult about the concept of net carbs. What do we mean by net carbs? Well, if I were to win $100 in a sweepstakes, I win $100, I have to give, let's say I got to give $30 of that to the government from taxes. I get 100, I give 30, I'm left with 70. That's my net. You see this all the time in your paychecks. What was your gross? Well, I made $1,000, but I pay taxes, my health care insurance, blah, blah, blah. Out of $1,000, I end up net $700 or something like that. That's my net. That's the real stuff. What does that mean in the world of nutrition? Well, it's carbohydrates, right? So net carbs, or net carbohydrates, simply describes the two types, or two main types of carbohydrates that come into our nutrition. Digestible carbohydrates, meaning any carbohydrate that will ultimately, upon the digestion in our digestive system, well, that's redundant. Those carbohydrates, by the way, those are starches, sugars, whatever, that will ultimately yield caloric value, right? 4 calories per gram is what we generally say carbohydrates will yield. So those digestible, calorically yielding carbohydrates is what we call net carbs. Indigestible material that are still carbohydrates, i.e. fiber, are those types of carbohydrates that do not yield caloric value. So in other words, when you eat spinach, spinach has, I don't know, like a handful of spinach. I mean, that's a lot of spinach. You get like 5 grams of usable carbohydrate from it, if that. Why? Because spinach, like most other greens and lettuce and other vegetables, lots of other vegetables, don't contain lots of starch, which is a digestible form carbohydrate, but do contain a lot of soluble and insoluble fiber. So I'm keeping this simple. Net carbs are those that provide you with caloric value upon movement, digestion, right? Movement through the digestive system. Carbohydrates that do not provide, you eat the stuff, you eat them, right? You eat salads, I hope. You eat fiber, I hope, a good amount of it. Fiber does not provide caloric value. Why? Because our bodies do not contain the enzymes. We don't have enzymes that are able to break cellulose down, for instance, into usable forms of energy. Now, rudiments, cows, horses, other vegetable eating, right, animals, then their stomach or stomachs, they contain the necessary enzymes to take cellulose, which is basically what the fiber is that we eat, breaking cellulose, and there are other types of fibers, by the way, pectin and things like that. They can break the cellulose down, just like we can break down starches, they can break down cellulose. And that cellulose will ultimately get converted into some form of sugar material that will be used by that animal to provide the production of ATP, just like we use starch. And we've got 2 starches, by the way. Humans digests basically two starches, amylose and amylopectin. Those are your main starches that your body can literally enzymatically break down to form ultimately glucose, right? So the idea is that you've got digestible carbs and indigestible carbs. The net carb concept is basically that if I'm eating a food that has both, digestible carbs and indigestible carbs, like most foods, most plant-based products, potatoes, right? They all contain both. Ultimately, if I were to count out the total grams of fiber and the total grams of total carbohydrates, I subtract the amount of fiber, and that's going to be my net carb gram quantity. There's one other little element here, and these are what are known as alcohol sugars. Alcohol sugars, they have a similar type of sweetness to glucose, sucrose, for instance, but their molecular structures are different, and so they don't impact your blood sugar for the average person. They don't generally impact, and you don't generally eat enough of it to have an impact. However, if you are consuming foods that contain what are known as alcohol sugars, and you can look on that, right? Xylitol and some of these other brand name products that are used in the food industry, not that much anymore, but they still use them. You'll find that if there's 2 to 3 grams of alcohol sugars, your net carbs would subtract those out as well. So it looks really simple. I have a food product that has total carbohydrates, right? You read the food label, total carbohydrates of, 12 grams. 12 grams total carbohydrate, 3 grams of fiber, and 1 gram of alcohol sugars. What's my net carb count now? Got 12 total carbs, 3 grams of indigestible carbs or fiber. Now I'm down to 9, right? 9 digestible grams of carbs, 1 gram of alcohol sugar. You subtract that out as well. And now I am down to a net carb count of 8 grams of carbohydrates. That's how it's done. It's really pretty simple. It's just math. You can read look, try to stay away from any of those foods that contain alcohol sugars. And by the way, if you got 3, 4, 5 grams of fiber in a food product and you're eating that multiple times during the day, that's probably actually pretty good. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. There's nothing particularly mysterious about the concept of net carbs, okay? Ultimately, if you're consuming what we would call high quality complex carbohydrates with minimal or no sugar, you're still doing the best you can for the most part when it comes to eating clean and healthy. And so the goal here is in your carbohydrate consumption, start with total caloric values first. Roughly 40%, we recommend roughly 40% of your calories for the average person that's exercising should come from complex carbohydrates, maybe a little bit of sugars. So the concept of net carbs, it's not going to make that much, trust me, it's not going to make that much of a difference in the real world. But remember, 30 grams, 35 grams, somewhere around there of fiber. If you want to subtract them out from your total and you get your net carbs, that's more precise for sure. And if you want to do that, absolutely. But just wanted to give you a little bit of an explanation as to what we're talking about with net carbohydrates. Just make sure when all is said and done, do it, use it. It's a very precise way of determining exactly the total number of actual caloric valued carbohydrates you're getting in your diet. But at the end of the day, stay away from the chemical stuff, the alcohol sugars, if possible. Consume significant amounts of fiber that are appropriate for your age, whether you're male or female, and your body weight as well. So look, I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, type the word understand if you understood what I was explaining. Also in that comment box, if you have any questions related to this topic or any other topic that we have gone over in any of these videos, please write it in there as well. In the discussion box, there is a link. If you want to become a qualified, not just certified, but qualified personal trainer, please click on that link and we can help you out with that. Every Wednesday night, we do a Quizlet live exam study, 6 to 6:30 p.m. Come on board with us. It's a lot of fun, very helpful from a memorization perspective. As always, give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Also, head on over to the Facebook group as well, private Facebook group that you could get into and get some more resources and information. As always, have a great week. We'll see you next week.